got something on there. Hello, everybody. We are going to go over Kathleen's Q&A from her Twitter. So we already did it in the Stephen Avery project. We were live as it was going on there. And so I said we'd hop over here into gossip and go over it here as well. So we have our own live here and can discuss it further. And yes, I'm a ray of light. I had the blinds closed completely before, but my dog's going nuts that she can't look out the window. So I gave her a little sliver to look out of. So, all right, I'm going back to Kathleen's Twitter. Scrolling all the way back down. Hello again, Andrea. Scrolling back down to the start. While I'm reading all these, I will not be answering any questions or comments. If there are any moderators here, they may be able to answer it, or you all can answer it. You all know as much as the rest of us. So, but it takes me a while to read through all of these. So it is 2:00 p.m. my time on the dot, so I will start reading these now. Ready, set, go. Kathleen started with, is everybody ready? Let's go. And the beginning of her Q&A was, there is a thread on Twitter, or not Twitter, Reddit, called, what do you plan to ask KZ? And so she answered a bunch of them. I don't know, that doesn't make it a clickable link. There it is. So if you want to go and read that whole thread yourself, there it is. But I am only going to read what I'm able to see here on Twitter. So, question. Even if state release bone fragments, how do we know the DNA profile of Teresa on record is even her actual profile? Answer. Currently, the FBI CODIS submission requires all 20 loci, is that how you say it? Is it loci? Be uploaded, and that at least 8 of the loci must have a 1 to 10 million match statistically. Teresa's 7 loci would probably not meet the current requirements. Ooh. Question. If the so-called crime scene was at Avery's, what were the DOJ doing a half a mile away from the crime scene at Cuss Road when nothing was found there? Answer. The tracking dogs led them to a suspected burial spot, and a very cursory effort was made to determine if it was a burial site. Question. What will happen if the state says the RAV4 is gone or destroyed? Can they ignore it? Answer. We have confirmed that the RAV4 is in possession of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department and is being kept in storage. It is safe. Question. Holy cow. I don't know if you hear that. We have an ice storm going on right now. And since I have the blinds closed for this, I can't see it, but all of a sudden you could hear it all hitting my window. That was crazy. Sorry, back to questions. Question, in your opinion, what are the chances that this constitutional violation, even if the state is able to produce the bones by exhumation, will get, and I would have to click to go to Reddit to read the rest of it, and I'm not going to. I'll just read her answer. The answer is, we never speculate on what a court might do. We believe there is a serious constitutional violation. Question. Are the bones that were returned to the Hallbacks even still physically testable? Answer. We do not know. We don't know if the bones were buried or cremated. Question. I wonder if the raw data The charts and RFU peaks for the bones with 7 loci is known or obtained by KZ. Answer, yes, we have possession of that data. Data or data? Question, has she had any direct communication with Josh Kaul, who is now the Attorney General and is Peg Lachsenslager's son, regarding the bones or the case in general? Answer, no. Question, do you expect the bones to be exhumed? Answer, it will depend on what the appellate court ruling is. Question, is there a signed legal document that the Halbachs actually received the bone fragments? Answer, we do not have possession of that document. Question, what is her take on Stephen A. Wish taking Bobby Dassey's original record interview cassette from the hospital on 11/9/05, taking it in January 2018, and I would have to go click to read the rest of it, but Kathleen's answer is the original recording cassette was brought to our office and we copied it. Question, does she have any suspicion at all that Carmen Bootwell's bones have been planted? Answer, the Avery burn pit bones were planted. We have no evidence that suggests they were Carmen Bootwell's. Question, ledger sheets indicate that the, oh, wait. Now I'm reading the wrong spot because I'm used to reading where the Reddit was underneath and then the answers. And now it's no more Reddit and it's her Q&A. So the question, what did you discover about the lanyard's location? Answer, ledger sheets indicate that the lanyard was first in the rear cargo area and then it was moved to the inside of her center console. Question, CX is originally documented as being in the trailer. What do you make of the location movements? Answer, it looks like a scrivener's error, which, let me hop into this real quick because I was messaged by one of our lovely followers here who sent me saying, just an FYI, earlier I noticed KZ mentioned a scrivener's error. It's basically just a clerical error by whomever transcribed the info. So thank you very much, Sherry, for that. Holy shit. Yeah, my girlfriend and I were supposed to go to Chicago tonight for a political event, and we've decided we're not going. Roads are really bad here with this ice storm that's happening right now. Okay. Question. What can we expect from Dr. Selden's DNA testing of the bones? That's at rapid DNA IDing that he says he would be able to know within 2 hours. Answer. Based upon his work in California, we believe his techniques could lead to a complete and full DNA profile from the gravel pit bones. Question. When are you expecting a response in regards to this motion? Answer, impossible to know. Question, do you believe you have solid evidence to prove that the bones were given back to the family in bad faith, not just from negligence? Answer, yes, because the state law was violated. Question, have you tried to get an affidavit from someone at the funeral home where the bones were taken to? Answer, yes, we have interviewed the personnel at the funeral home. Question, has the latest revelations changed your opinion on who murdered Teresa? Answer, no. Question, if they decline your filing, what options do you have? Answer, to continue on with the appeal, which has numerous issues, 140 plus pages. Question, will you marry me? Answer, already taken. Question, what is it that makes it clear that the bones moved from the Manitowoc County gravel pit to Stevens burn pit? And will you be pointing to the extra burn barrel that ... Answer, because Teresa was not burned in Stevens burn pit. Question, are you aware that the Halbach family, of what the Halbach family has done with the bones? Answer: we are assuming that the bones have been buried. Question: will the CASO documents help Stephen, or will the courts ignore it? Answer: we believe they will help Stephen. Question: how are Stephen's parents? So there's only 35 of you here right now, but here's the answer. This is the question that we are asked the most every time I go live. Everybody's always asking about how are Al and Dolores. So here is the answer: hanging in there, but have declining health. Question: I heard a rumor that Teresa's RAV4 has been lost, destroyed, or returned to the Hallback family. Is there any truth to this rumor that you are aware of? Answer: untrue. It's in the possession of Calumet County. Question: what is the next step for you guys? Answer: waiting for the Court of Appeals to rule. We are ready to file our brief. Question: is there any chance that the killer's DNA could have been found in the material collected from the quarry that was turned over to the Hallback family? Answer: yes. Question: was it proven it is Teresa's bones at any point? Answer: 7 Loki DNA from her blood in the car. Question: do you know who moved the bones to Avery's burn pit? Answer: the killer. Question: the case is taking eternity. Justice delayed, justice denied. What should we expect soon? Answer: all of these cases take an eternity, and we've been in the case 3 years. Average time is 15 years. Question: is it possible that there are still fragments at the same location at Manitowoc Gravel Pit that could be tested? Answer: yes. And that one just made me go, oh my God, how many people are now going to go to that Manitowoc Gravel Pit and look for bones? Okay, question. Do you have the copy of Eisenberg's report that helped the state agents determine on 9/20/2011 which bones were human and therefore given back to the family? Answer: there is no proof of scientific testing of these bones in those reports. Question from our Alex: are you aware of how many items have been given back to the Hallbacks? I have found 14, but I'm not done with my research yet. Answer: sounds accurate, maybe more. Question: have you been able to examine the RAV4 yet? Answer: no, but we had an agreement with the Attorney General to examine the RAV4 prior to the 10/3/2017 ruling. Question: could Bobby have taken a shortcut via salvage yard to intercept Teresa at the crossing between Q and Cuss Road before Berm was there? Love you. Kathleen says, impossible to know. Question: has the massive publicity about this case helped or hindered the judicial system's willingness to consider new evidence? Answer: it's undetermined at this point because we are just now with a higher court. Question: can the individuals responsible for returning the bones be prosecuted? Answer: that would be up to Wisconsin to decide. Question: do you know for sure Teresa's family has her bones and not someone else's? Answer: the only way to determine that is to test the bones. Question: does any of the new issues with the bones raise further concerns about chain of custody with evidence in general? Answer: we look for one violation at a time. We can't generalize. Question: what remedies exist for Steven Avery if the bones cannot be tested again? Answer: a due process violation that would result in a new trial. Question: are you aware that the same officers in question were accused of withholding evidence in a 1999 hit and run? Answer: I am aware of the evidence in the 1999 hit and run, and that is the Ricky Hochstetler case they're referring to there. Question: how come the exclusion of the coroner by police at the crime scene did not have any consequences? Did police admit they withheld her? Answer: in Illinois, that would have been a felony. Apparently in Wisconsin, it is disregarded. Question: even though it may take more time, is it good that people involved in case then today may have or will retire and you get different eyes on the case? Answer: possibly. It's more a question of a desire to get to the truth and whether the successors are so motivated. Question: does the evidence ledger qualify for Brady since it was not in the CASO report? Answer: we believe it is more of a Youngblood versus Arizona violation related to lost destruction of evidence. Question: can I have $20? Venmo is Richard McLaughlin 6. Also, is Brendan out of options unless Stephen gets overturned? Thanks. Answer: no, as to the $20. There are always more options. Question: was 8675 pelvic bone returned to the family? Thank you, Heidi, for calling me out on not noticing the 8675 the first time I read this, and now it will be in my head forever. Answer: the Calumet County ledgers indicate 8675 was returned to the family. Question: considering all of your prior exonerations in other states, would you say Wisconsin has been the most difficult to deal with? Answer: it's in the top 2%. Question: what are the consequences of proof that a Youngblood versus Arizona violation occurred? Answer: new trial and or outright reversal of conviction. Question: Kathleen, how is your dog? Also, why, in your opinion, do you feel like the state of Wisconsin does not want to hear of an idea that maybe these two did not do it? To me, it's infuriating to watch judge after judge not look clearly at what is presented to them. Answer: Bruno is doing great. We have to give the appellate court a chance. They have not made any rulings on our evidence. Question: is it possible that Teresa's death was completely faked, the bones aren't hers, and she is sipping cocktails in the Caribbean? Answer: highly unlikely. Question: do you think it's a good or bad sign that the court has not replied yet? Answer: a good sign because they are closely examining the issue. Question: has losing every important decision in the Avery case made you sad? Which, that's somebody called Making a Memory, and they're at Memory Lane, MAM. So is that a guilter? Because that's a bizarre question. Answer: absolutely not. The only decisions we've lost were at the trial court level, and 99% of exonerations are at a higher court, and we haven't gotten there yet. Question: do you ever communicate with any of Teresa's family? Answer: not yet, but we have communicated with victims' families in our other cases. Question: have you been able to go to the smelter and collect any type of evidence regarding Skinny, which Skinny is Scott Toddock's nickname, cremating the rest of the bones, teeth, etc.? And remember that Scott works at Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry, which has a smelter. And her answer is, we continue to investigate any connection between the smelter and the crime. Question: with so much evidence put forward to the courts, why do you think they keep denying everything? Answer: Stephen's case has not been decided by the appellate court. We've only gotten 3 opinions from the trial court. We're just beginning the battle. Question: totally unrelated, but did you hear one of the rumors is you are an actor and Kathleen Zellner is your stage name? Answer: yes, I'm just pretending to be a lawyer. We know a couple of those, don't we? Couple people who took some classes or do law on some kind of basis, and they think that makes them an expert in criminal law. Oh, Lordy. Question. Will you be able to cross-examine Colborn when he tries to sue Netflix? Sorry. Answer. Not directly, but the Netflix attorneys, who will be some of the best in the country, will certainly be examining him. Question. Is there a reason the Halbach family isn't willing to provide whatever they can to be certain justice prevails? Answer. The Halbach family are victims of this grave miscarriage of justice, and they should not be blamed for any aspect of this case. Question. Has the change in Wisconsin Attorney General helped? Could it possibly help the process? Answer. It's too soon to say, but in our opinion, there was nowhere to go but up. Question. What evidence establishes the bones were moved by the killer and not the police? Answer. The killer had the greatest incentive to frame Stephen. Question. How did you get to the position where you are now? Is it the hard work or your ability to see the big picture? Answer. Hard work has taught me to see the big picture. Question. How is Steve doing? Answer. Stephen remains strong and resilient and will never give up on the fight to win his freedom. Question. Is the public attention to Stephen not dangerous for him in prison? Maybe jealousy from the other prisoners? Answer. So far, he has not had any problems in prison and has a spotless record. Question. If the case is remanded back to Circuit Court Judge Angela Suckowitz, is there any optimism for a favorable ruling? Answer. Practice makes perfect. She's so funny. Question. True, but the police had 36 million reasons to frame him. Answer. The killer was facing life sentence without parole guaranteed, but no guarantee that Stephen Avery would have recovered $36 million. No one else in the country has ever recovered that amount of money for a wrongful conviction. Question. Are you aware that you're an absolute legend? Answer. No, I'm just aware of the reality of trying to exonerate an innocent man. Question. Is the Avery case the hardest or most difficult case you've ever had? Answer. No. Question. Guilters are claiming that you missed the boat on examining the RAV. Is this true, or can you comment as to the agreement you had with the Attorney General? Thank you. Answer. The agreement is reflected in our pleadings and will be able to test the RAV4 at any point when the appeal is completed. Question. How many Denny suspects are still being investigated? Answer. More than one. Question. Do we know why the Halbachs family dropped the wrongful death suit they filed against Avery and Dassey? Answer. No. Question. Do you still have your RAV4? Answer. Yes. Would you like to buy it? And I said she should absolutely sell it, raffle it off, auction it off, and give the money to Stephen or use for testing, whatever. Question. With the publicity being huge on this case and so many armchair detectives, in your experience, have you ever had someone cave in to the pressure and come forward with vital information last minute? Answer. Yes. Question. With the publicity being huge on this case and so many armchair detectives, oh, wait, it's the same question. She's just answering more to it. Answer. The girlfriend of the killer in the Riley Fox case, remember we were just discussing this in gossip yesterday, came forward and led the police to his arrest and conviction. Question. What piece of advice would you give people aspiring to be like you? Answer. Work hard and find a cause that you believe in. Devote yourself to it 100%. Question. This was the biggest thing to me, I think. Are you aware the bone group 7964 was originally found in a deer camp barrel, not a Yonda burn barrel? And her answer is yes. So what bones were at the deer camp? Remember, it goes salvage yard, quarry, deer camp, gravel pit. Question. Is Brendan Dassey's last chance of getting released be on the exoneration of Steven Avery? Answer. Not his last chance, but certainly it would help him if Steven were exonerated. Question. Are you able to work on other cases at the same time as Steven's? It seems like it must take an extraordinary amount of time to work through such complex evidence. Answer. Yes. Sorry, I'm getting tired now. We manage a full caseload. I have an excellent group of people working with me on other cases. Question. Any thoughts on why there are bones in 3 locations in the quarry? Answer. Impossible to know. Question. There were other items taken from Teresa's for DNA purposes, such as a toothbrush and sexual device. These were also returned to the Hallback family. Is this a similar violation? Answer. No. Which I don't understand. I would think those, as long as somebody's incarcerated, you have to keep those in evidence as well, since there's DNA on them. Question, but I'm not basically a lawyer, so. Question, do you think one piece of evidence in particular will set him free, or will it be several? Answer, Zellner. This question I can't read because this person has Steven Avery Project blocked on Twitter. But the answer is from Kathleen says, there is no one piece of evidence. There are multiple pieces of evidence. Question, has the state tried to intimidate you, or have you noticed people trying to stop, delay your investigations? Answer, no. Question, are the blue RAV planted at Avery Salvage Yard and Teresa's dark green RAV the same car? Why did law enforcement falsify KH's description of the car in reports? Kathleen, regardless of the color in the photographs, the VIN was confirmed. And I say this over and over. The color of her car just in some light looks blue, in some light looks green. It's a bluish green in color. My car is a blue car, but in some light it looks blue, and sometimes it looks black. So that has never concerned me, the blue or the green. Question, do you have any information that you can or cannot share that gives you 100% certainty that Avery is innocent? Answer, we believe that he is innocent. Question, I can't wrap my head around how they can still keep Brendan in prison when there is zero evidence to corroborate his confession. The brutal scene he depicted shows no trace of it happening. Answer, all issues concerning whether Brendan's confession was coerced have been laid to rest by the higher courts. Question, thank you for taking your time to answer all of our questions. Answer, thank you for asking the questions and following the case. Question, when Steven is released, what does that mean for Brendan? Answer, obviously, if Steven is released, it greatly helps Brendan. We've done this so many times when everyone thought it was impossible. We never pay attention to the guilters. Burn. Question, what can we as the public do to help you? Answer, continue to supply us with tips and information. Question, is there such a thing as sweat DNA? Answer, no. Oh, now I have to use visual aids. I've read your book. It's great. Can you send me a hardback copy signed by yourself and Steven, please? Kathleen, yes, send a copy to my office. it is signed by John Farrick, the author, that we will be raffling off, but maybe I will bring this book to Kathleen's office and see if I can get her to sign that too. Question: do you have any plans to try and communicate with the Halbachs? Answer: no, that would not be appropriate. Question: any explanation on the star 69 calls made to Teresa by Stephen on the day Teresa disappeared? Answer: they're irrelevant. Neither were answered, and millions of people use star 67. It's not automatically nefarious. Question: any chance you'll be helping the filmmakers and Netflix in the Colborne lawsuit? Answer: no, I don't think they will need our help. The case is meritless. Question: why would the police hand the gravel pit bones to Teresa's family when the police did not think those bones were even human? Answer: that's the million-dollar question. Question: are Strang and Buting still involved on a consult basis in the case? Answer: not as a consult, but they provide us with tips and they have been fully cooperative with our efforts. Question: will you be helping Daniel Holtzclaw? Answer: I am currently working on Daniel Holtzclaw's case and hope he will be given a new trial and subsequently freed. Question: I'm a British cop and I wanted to know how the continuity of evidence was recorded. Was it good or bad, or are there gaping holes in continuity? Answer: gaping holes. Question: would you take an Alford plea right now? Answer: absolutely not. Question: was Teresa's murder committed by an individual to stop Stephen's lawsuit? Answer: no evidence of that. Question: if Stephen is granted a new trial, would you then have access to all of the evidence, RAV4, bones, etc., for retesting? Answer: yes. Question: how confident are you Steven Avery will get out with all recent setbacks? Answer: yes, there are no recent setbacks. We have many more opportunities to overturn his conviction with the higher courts. Here comes a really good question. Ready for it? On a scale of 1 to 10, how sweaty is Sweaty Sweat Sweat right now? And Kathleen's answer: instead of 1 to 10, maybe we should measure it in buckets. I laughed so hard at that when I first read it. Question: do you collaborate with Brendan's team? I remember you saying you felt Laura should have used the DNA evidence when she last spoke for him at the Circuit Court appeal. Answer: we do exchange ideas with them, and we think they did an excellent job in their representation of Brendan. Question: do you ever feel like Stephen feels defeated and wants to never give up? And that's funny too, considering one of Stephen's sayings is #never give up, because he's never going to give up. How do you keep him motivated to keep going? I can't even imagine how difficult this must be on all of you. Answer: never. I don't need to motivate him. He motivates himself because he, more than anyone else, knows he is 100% innocent. Question: does it help Stephen's spirits to receive letters and cards of hope in prison? Answer: yes, it helps tremendously. Question: it appears when removing the bones from evidence, it took a long time and they were very selective which suspected human bones they signed out. Is there anything left in evidence that is worth further testing? P.S. What breed is Bruno? Answer: we believe there will be evidence left to test. Bruno is a cockapoo and hates Brady violations. Question: do you think you could win the retrial if it was granted? Answer: yes, absolutely. Question: how much do you want to punch Sweaty Sweat Sweat's smug face? Answer: I wouldn't want to damage his face any further. Question. Will there be another series of Making a Murderer? Answer. Not up to us to decide. Question. Do you feel the Avery case has had more, less, or about the normal amount of frustration as others? Answer. We never see it as frustration, just the path to victory. Question. Would you like to go for a coffee sometime? Answer. Sure, if I'm not too busy. I can't answer you, Fanny, who's calling me right now. Question. What good crime documentaries are you in or are excellent to watch? Answer. Dream Killer and the letter I, Witness. So that is Ryan Ferguson and the Riley Fox case. We've discussed about it before here in Gossip. So those are two that she tells you to watch. But I'm bummed that she never mentions Melissa. You know, that would have been the time for her to say, to watch Fight for Melissa. Question. How is the case with Sandra Melgar going? Answer. Great. We've had the full cooperation of the Houston DA's office, a refreshing change. Question. How long does the Court of Appeals have to respond to your most recent motion? Answer. There is no time limit. They will take as much time as they need. So we don't know how long we'll be waiting. Another scale. Question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how grimy is Sweaty Sweat Sweat? Answer. Wouldn't know. Maybe you'd have to swab him. And it just always makes me feel of when they brought, remember when they brought Steven in and they did that groin swab for no reason. How gross is that? Question. If given the opportunity of an Alford plea, would you advise Steven to take it? Answer. Absolutely not. We go over this over and over and over again. Alford plea, you plead guilty while retaining your innocence, but then that means you can't sue for your wrongful conviction. So you don't want that. Alford plea, you typically only go for an Alford plea when death is on the table. So that's why. So people that are in this Making a Murderer, you know, and are all into true crime things, you're thinking of the West Memphis 3, that those boys took the Alford plea, but that's because Damien Echols was on death row and it was killing him to be kept confined like that. He was losing his eyesight. That's why to this day he wears sunglasses all the time. It was killing him. So they took it just to get him free. Jason Baldwin did not want to take it. Jason Baldwin wanted to continue and fight for his innocence, but he did this to save Damien. So no Alford plea. It's not happening. All right, back to the Q&As. Question. How long have you been working on Steven's case now? Answer. 3 years as of January 16. Question. Houston, Dallas, Austin, or Chicago, which is better? Answer. In my book, Texas is always number 1. Boo. Sorry, I'm in a Chicago suburb. Question. Do you ever find time to sleep? I know I'm constantly following the case and don't have time for much else. Answer. Sleep is overrated. Question. From watching season 1 and 2, screaming out at me was cross-contamination of evidence. Would this be the case? Answer. It's possible. Well, and it's not only possible, it's fact. Because one of the techs, I talked about this on Steven Avery Project when we were live, he was looking in Steven's Grand Am, and then he went in the RAV4, or he touched the hood latch of the RAV4 after the Grand Am, but he didn't switch his gloves. So that's cross-contamination. So anything that's on the RAV4 hood latch could be from him touching stuff in Steven's car and transmitting it over to the hood latch. Contamination. Question. Pretty sure you're inspiring lots of teenagers to become lawyers. How do you feel about that? Answer. I've inspired numerous young people to become lawyers over the last 30 years. I think it's great they are still listening. Question. Is Sweaty Sweat Sweat still trying to sell his shitty book? Answer. Wouldn't know, not on my reading list. Question. Do all of the followers help you with the case as far as finding new evidence or with new ideas? Answer. Yes, we have gotten some very important tips from our followers. Question. Does the scale of corruption involved in the Avery case really get to you at times? Answer. No, because all of our cases have involved similar issues. Question. I learned about all this from Melkin. I hope you two have met. Huge advocate for these cases and lots of followers. Answer. She is a very dear friend of mine. I have the greatest admiration for her. Question. Have you read Buting's book? Answer. Yes. And for another show and tell, this is a signed book from Jerry Buting. And at some point, I keep saying I need to raffle these things off and make money for Stephen. Then Kathleen said 2 more minutes for questions. Question. Was it ever explained about Colborne calling in Teresa's plate before the car was found? Answer. We think we have the answer to that in our pleadings. Question. What's on your reading list? Answer. Too lengthy for this type of exchange. Question. What was your main motivation in pursuing a career in law? Answer. To be where I am now, representing innocent people. Question. Who was role model growing up? Answer. As an attorney, it's been Jerry Spence. Question. My last question. If I wanted to help people in similar situations to Stephen, other than being a lawyer, what can I do? Answer. Exactly what you're doing now. Review the evidence, follow the case, and speak out about injustices. Answer. Do you feel Steve Speckman has any suspicious involvement in this? Answer. No. Oh, this one. Question. When are you going to realize Stephen is guilty? Answer. Never. There is not any credible evidence against him. When are you going to realize that he's innocent? Ha ha. And then she ended with, thank you for the time. We'll be back. New ledgers are on our website. And I don't know if the moderators have posted her website in this, so I'm just going to do it now. Sorry, I have to now pull out my keyboard. So when you go to her website, and then you scroll down, the very top thing is Calumet County Sheriff's Department evidence ledgers. And you click on that, and then there it all is in. So that's all the Twitter. And okay, so now I'll scroll down. That only took me 43 minutes to read all of that. So I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom. So Christy says, I haven't had time to read the pleadings. What does it say about Kohlberg calling in the tags? I'm not recalling. What does it say in there? Anybody else remember what it's saying? Is it just the usual of you know, was it before it was found? Sorry. Okay. Sorry, answering something on the political side. So I don't recall. So somebody refresh my memory on that. Angel says, just caught the end of that. What was the most important answer you thought? Well, I thought it was interesting that they talked about that bones they have in evidence was in the deer camp burn barrel. And what else did I find interesting in there? I like her positivity. You know, that she has to keep reminding people that this is new. That these cases take typically 15 years. And she's only had the case for 3 years. So, and that people, meaning guilters, keep thinking that she's lost and lost and lost on here. And she really doesn't, or hasn't. She says she's only, and it's only been the lower court. And these things are never overturned in the lower court. You always have to go up higher. So, I thought that was interesting. Oh, and Alex says, Alex, because Alex got a question in. Good on you, Alex. Alex says, I have a question. In the case, so are the dates on the top of the form the dates when the evidence was obtained, or just dates when they were put into that form? I haven't looked at the top of them. Let's see. Let me go into them by bringing up Kathleen's thing, going to her Dropbox. All right, so when you go into the Dropbox there and get the very first thing, Teresa Hallback, and it says on this one, date obtained 11/5/05. So this is item 7100, which are broken glasses, and 7101, which is a plastic, and it said piece and then scratched out piece and written part. And they were on driveway near Avery Road. And then underneath it is every time that those pieces of evidence moved. So on 11/5, it went to evidence storage. Then on because it says 11/5/05, and then underneath it says 1/13/05. How do you go from November to January of the same year in opposite order? That's weird there. So that's the first one. Now we've got this next page, which says it's 11/6/05. Stop. And those are items 642, 43, 44, 45, then 41. And then underneath it is 8101 and 8102. Hey! And those are stuff at Barb's. Some are at Barb's. Barrel behind Barb Yonda, behind Barb Yonda, behind Barb Yonda, behind Barb Yonda. And then rear door off Suzuki Samurai print, Stevens Garage. And then it said keys, and then they crossed off the S to Master Lock. 1 gold, 1 silver. And then down here, when they've been moved around, it was always on 11/6. And then 11/7, because there's a second page, then 11/8, then 11/10, then 11/12, then 11/16. All right, now I got to see what my dogs are going crazy for. Nothing. There's nothing out there, so shut up. Then the next one is dated 11/6/05, and it's toothbrush and chapstick, lip moisturizer and hairbrush, red case containing vibrator, and then in parentheses, sexual device. All found at Teresa's house. And then They're moved around on 11/6. Identification evidence, then placed into evidence. Then on 11/8, it is transported to crime lab. Then on 5/25, Wendy Baldwin, that evil twat, transported to Calumet County. Then Wendy Baldwin turned over to custodian, placed in secure storage. Then on 5/18/07, Wiegert returned to family. And there's Karen Hallback signing for it on 5/21 to get a vibrator and chapstick. Okay. These ones are sideways. This one is dated 11/7. It's 7609, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Is the Marlin rifle and a semi-automatic pistol and another Raven semi-automatic, a Colt Huntsman 22, and a Manitowoc Deputy Sheriff's badge. Those were all at the Avery Salvage Yard office and were Earl's, I believe. Chuck is the one that got those back. Chuck got him on 11/16/06. Then next is Bobby's computer. And so Bobby's computer was on 11/08/05. And last thing it just says on here is TOT, signed by Remaker, released by Hawkins, received by Remaker. So Detective Remaker is the last one in the chain of custody with that computer. And no further mention about it. 11/8. Pornography materials, miscellaneous ammo, cloth rope, miscellaneous pornographic material and identifiers, swabs from possible blood spots, Bissell carpet cleaner, miscellaneous ammo, miscellaneous pornographic material and zip ties, swabs from possible blood stain, pillow with red stain, duct tape gray in color. So now when you look at that traveling through chain of custody, thing on there says Hawkins has it. Wiegert gave it to Hawkins on 2/20/07. 11/6. Here's the Glenfield rifle. Christy's telling me that TOT stands for turned over to. Thank you, Christy. Bullets, comforter, fitted sheet, red in color, 2 pillowcases, red in color, vacuum, rag with a red stain. Were all taken from Stevens on 11/6/05. And the last thing on that was on 2/22/07. Hawkins gave it to Wiegert to release for court. This one dated 11/6 is samples from possible blood spot in entryway floor of Barb's house. And Wendy Baldwin, gave it to Jeremy Hawkins on 5/25/06. Released to custodian, put into secured storage. Next one, 11/6/05. Fibers from inside Stevens' truck. inside, fibers and hair from in the truck, blanket, floor mat, passenger side, possible blood stain, something paper, dating paper. Is that what that says? A gray blue rag, multicolor rag, and fiber hair, all from Stevens F-350. And last for that one is, it's Wendy Baldwin gave it to Hawkins, and it's at the custodian. Next is 11605. Blood stains behind, next to passenger door, auto in red shed, outbuilding. So that's 7120. And then possible blood stain swab from behind auto parked in red shed, garage floor red shed. Then there's a knife with red brown stains, kitchen sink of Alan Dolores. Comforter crossed out and blanket crossed out, and then saying Harrington and Richardson 12 gauge. So they went from saying something was a blanket to a gun. And is from a bedroom off of laundry room. There's comforter and blanket. Blanket, comforter, sheet, pillowcase, comforter. So that's all from Dolores's trailer. And Hawkins gave it to Chuck Avery on 11/16/06. And this on 11/6 is sample of possible blood spots, garage floor. Garage floor. And then there's 22 empty case and a 223 empty case. Yard east of garage. That's something we discussed about too, is that 22 is a common rifle. And it's not something, if you were going to kill somebody, you wouldn't use a 22. If you're going to kill somebody, you would use that 223. 22 will enter your skull and not come back out. A 23 is going to go in, and the entry of a 22 and a 23 will be the same size hole upon entry, but the 223 is going to come out and make a big whole mess. My boyfriend, who's an NRA instructor and a gun collector, he has been shot by a 22 before in his chest. The gun was 25 feet away from him when he was shot, and he was literally able to just pull the bullet out of his chest himself. But if it had been a 223, that wouldn't be the case. And Bobby had a 223. All right, so that following their here, the last time something was done with it was 2/20/07. Jeremy Hawkins gave it to Wiegert, release for court. This one's from, has no date. It just says Avery property. These are numbers 79, 21, 22, and 23. Metal barrel with burnt material by residence by Eastmost Lane. Then another metal barrel with burnt material and number 4 on it was north of residence, and brown tarp with burnt material behind garage with, I think that says dog. But there's no date on there. The dates down here are 11/8. And so it was transported 11/8, then 11/11, then 12/14, 12/20, 4/10, 4/11, 10/9, 10/9. So Hawkins is the last person to have all those and says evidence custodian. All right, should I even continue going on over these? Let me scroll down to all you guys, because this is a lot of stuff. So let me scroll down to the bottom of your stuff. Okay, so I'm not going to continue to read all these unless I mean, I guess that could be a separate other time, but there's so many of them, and you can read them yourself. We posted the link, and I'm sure you've already looked through all of these before. Kristen says, yes, a 22 is for small game like a squirrel. Geez, those cops knew that. Now you're saying, Alex is saying, go to page 131. 131. Stop right on it. Which one's 131? What's 131? I can't tell on these if this is 131 or this is 131. What I get Alex, when I'm stopping at 131 is 8755 and 8756 from the Green Bay Police Department that were obtained on November 30th, 05, is a letter note found at Green Bay Post Office and a container envelope the letter was in. So that's the Sikkiki letter. And when you look down, it was received by Wendy Baldwin. Wendy gave it to Hawkins. Hawkins gave it to Dietering. Dietering gave it to Hawkins. Hawkins gave it to somebody that I can't read who that is. And then that person isn't signed when they released it to Brenda Gulig. Brenda Gulig gave it back to Jeremy Hawkins. Jeremy Hawkins gave it to Crime Lab. Crime Lab gave it back to Brenda Gulig. Brenda Gulig gave it to Wiegert. And Wiegert gave it to Hawkins. And that's where it ended up. That's the last of it. So it flopped around 11:30:05 to 5:12:06 to 11:16:06, 11:30:06, 12:29:06. That's it. Is that what you wanted me to read, Alex? Yes, that's the Sikkiki letter. So look at the date. Let me go back up to the Sikkiki letter. Yes, it says at 11:45, so that's 11:45 a.m. on 11:30:05 is when they got the Sikkiki letter, which would be 1 month after Teresa disappeared. Amanda says, if he supposedly killed her in the garage, why isn't there blood in there, but it's on the RAV4? Because that's not how it was done. Geez, right? Alex says, in Dietering's reports, the date is 11:10:05. On the Sikkiki note, there is a date 12:05:06. You should start a thread, Alex, in gossip because I know there's the screenshot of the actual letter exists. Put it all together in one post. All those pictures. Do the picture of Dietering's report and do a picture of this and a picture of that on how all these dates change. It's really, that's crazy. Alex says, that's what I'm asking. What the dates in the queso mean. Those dates are meaning every time they've switched it around on where it went. Because so it's saying on 11:30:05 is when it was logged into evidence. And then when Wendy Baldwin is the one that received it. Then she gave it to Jeremy Hawkins where it was secured in the evidence room. Then Hawkins gave it to Dietering where it's written that Dietering made a copy for Dash the investigator. Then Dietering gave it back to Hawkins, returned to evidence. Then Hawkins mailed it somewhere that's all crossed off. You can see it kind of say Crime Lab and stuff on there. And then Brenda Gulig gets it and it says for mailing to Crime Lab is what I think is what it says. I can't read the writing there. And then Brenda gives it back to Hawkins and it says return to evidence. That's on 11/16. Also on 11/16, Hawkins mails it to Crime Lab for processing. Then on 12/29, it was mailed from the Crime Lab and Brenda Gulig is who got it. She signed for the package. Then she gave it to Wiegert that says released to investigator. Then Wiegert gave it to Hawkins to put back in evidence. And that's the last of it. That's when they logged it into evidence. That's when they're saying they received that letter. But yeah, they could have gotten it anytime, but they're supposed to. That is supposed to be the date that they get it. But they're messing with dates here. So that doesn't mean that's when they had it. Because everything is suspect. So, all right. So that is everything. I have been live since noon when Kathleen started. So I am going to end this so I can stop talking. So that is everything. If we hear anything else, I'll go live again. I know the moderators were getting all the tweets and putting them together and posting them. They may have been posted already. I don't know. So you can read it all there and discuss. Until next time.